Hey guys, all right, so for today we're going to talk about what is developmental editing. Like, what's the purpose, how is it different from other kinds of editing? Because most of the time when people think about editing, they're actually thinking about copy line edit, and there's a big type of editing that a lot of people don't realize is a massive part of your story, and that is developmental editing. So developmental editing deals with the big picture of the story. Okay, so like if you zoom out and look at the big picture of the story, do the characters make sense? Does all the details in the setting, like, is the tone right? What's the pacing like? How does the dialogue feel? Does the character have a good arc? Like, are all the points of the plot there? Is there something missing in the plot? All of that kind of stuff comes together, and as a developmental editor, that's what I deal with the most. Right? Like big picture, making sure that everything flows correctly, making sure that there's nothing, like no massive plot hole that's going to destroy your story. We want to make sure that that's complete, right? Make sure that it flows well, that it's not super clunky, that everything is tied together well. That's what we're looking at. Now, substantive editing, that is dealing with chapters, sections, paragraphs, like sentence levels. Like, we can deal with feedback on all of those. Right now, what I do, like how I edit, and I know that it's a little bit different than how some other editors deal with it, is that I do the developmental, and at the same time, I'm also looking at sentence structure, because I'm also trying to make sure that the story that you're telling is the story that you want your readers to actually get. So the implications of how things are worded may change the meaning of what the reader is getting, and we don't always realize that, right? So like, even if something is written and this is like the old joke about how, oh, I shot a bear in my pajamas, the other morning. What he was doing in my pajamas, I'll never know. Well, because you're implying that the bear is the one wearing the pajamas, not you, right? So those kinds of things change drastically as you're rewriting stories. And so as you are working with these whole sections, that's some of the stuff that I do. I look at the big picture of the story. I make sure it flows. I make sure that all the parts are there. If you want to know what a reader's going to be getting out of it, that's why I also just kind of tell people I'm essentially a professional book nerd, right? Because like I study story as a whole, like different types of story, how they function, how they work, and then I apply that to your book. That's what you want to get with the developmental editor. You want to make sure that the story makes sense, right? Before you're super concerned about where every single comma is going, where every single apostrophe or single quotation, double quotation mark, do we have an M dash, an N dash? Before dealing with any of that, you need to make sure that your story makes sense, right? Like making sure that things flow properly. That's what the developmental edit is going to get you, and it's the first stop in the whole story writing process. That's the thing too, is that's the massive part. Before you get down to the nitty gritty, before you have any proofreaders or beta readers or anything like that, get your developmental editing done so that you know that you've got a solid story as you go forward in the process. So stay tuned. Every single day this month, I'm going to be coming up with different things about editing and developmental editing specifically, so that you can get your project off into the world for everyone to read. I'll see you guys later. Bye.